Today's guest is a musician affectionately known as the voice of rock, the legendary Glenn Hughes. He's like the busiest guy in rock and roll in 2025, but today he joins us to talk about his new solo album, Chosen. Glenn, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Fantastic. So, little icebreaker here, but I'm located in New Jersey, and I got to know this guy back in the 2000s who used to host these backyard parties that used to play out in Carlstadt, New Jersey. His name was Mike. So.
That's right.
So you and I, August 2007, I was at that party. It was fascinating. So,
wow.
Yeah. Remember those parties?
I do. Mike's a really good friend of mine. God bless him. Yeah.
Yeah. I was one of the guys, my friend and I, we were heckling you in a good way. We were shouting all the songs out from the 7 Star album. And I remember when I kept saying Heart Like a Wheel, you kept saying, am I getting a request for Captain and Tennille?
Well, there you go.
Well, it was funny, Glenn. I remember that night, that afternoon, that you played a few Stevie Wonder songs, and it's funny. Ever since that point, every time I hear Stevie Wonder on the radio or on Sirius XM, it magically comes to me. I'm like, my God, there's so many similarities between Glenn and Stevie. So, was he an inspiration to you, and did you ever get a chance to work with him?
Well, he wasn't. He's always been an inspiration. I met Stevie in 1974 when I was making an album with Deep Purple at the record plant in Los Angeles, and Stevie was in the same studio next door. So we met, became friends, and we've been friends ever since. And it's not, look, in my opinion, he's the greatest singer ever. But it's the way the way he lives his life and the way he is with his family. And he's such a calm, considerate man, you know.
Yeah, you could definitely see that. He'll be on one of my bucket lists. I've never seen Stevie Wonder, but maybe I should try to see him at some point in time. Mm-hmm. So, Glenn, you released a fantastic autobiography in 2011, and it kind of well documents your darkest periods of your life, and you return to a healthy mental state and physical state. But anytime I listen to your body of work, it's so autobiographical, but how would you describe your influence of your higher power? Something that you give a lot of credit to your higher power. What is that guiding force to you now in 2025?
It's everything to me. Without my belief that I have a higher power, of course, I choose to call it God, but really, it's not about religion for me. It's about spiritual progression. Going back to the source, which is the being within, the not external. It's not the flesh. It's about the soul that I am, and we are. And I've been studying Buddhism for 15 years, and I'm in a place now where my life is very calm in a crazy world.
And you see a lot of that coming out on the new album, and we'll get to that in a few minutes. Mm-hmm. But you've had an action-packed 2025. I think you've done a little bit of everything. It seems. I mean, you had this album coming out, but you've also been maybe wrapping up the classic Deep Purple Live. Is that cycle finally coming to an end?
Yeah. That was last year, and I'd been doing it for a couple of years, and for me, I wanted to go back to being Glenn, with all my other work I've done, solo, of course, and new songs, which are very important.
Yeah. It's funny. I was thinking about that. I saw the classic Deep Purple before the pandemic in New Jersey, and then after the pandemic, so it's definitely been going on for a while. The Yngwie Malmsteen tour, that was a great one in New York City.
That was great.
Yeah, I noticed I was looking at some tour history. So you guys played Dubai. I don't know of any other rock artists playing Dubai. What's the experience like playing there?
It was great. I mean, I enjoyed that tour I did with the co-headline with Yngwie. Did you come to the Manhattan show?
Yes, it was at the place right in Times Square.
Yeah, I love that show. I love that tour, by the way. It was great. But for me, Dubai was, I know someone that lives there, but I played a show there anyway. But it's a great opportunity for anybody that needs to go over there. It's really fantastic. I went
Okay. Okay.
everywhere. I went everywhere on that tour. I went global. I went everywhere.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. Now, I've also saw that you did recently some Black Country Communion shows, right? You're out
Yeah.
promoting the number 5 album. You played some big places, Sweden Rock and Hellfest. So how was performing to those like massive crowds?
Really good. I mean, the band are back now. We're about to release a live album coming next year from that tour, and I believe we're going to make album number 6 next year too.
Oh, that's great. Great to hear. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
lot of Glenn stuff always coming. And that's what makes it exciting. We can never get a shortage of your material. Now, even you made a guest appearance on the first Joe Satriani and Steve Vai project, the Satch Vai Band. You
Correct.
sing on the first single, the bluesier song, I Want to Play My Guitar. And it was
Mhm.
funny. I recently ran into Marco Mendoza opening for Graham Bonnet in
Right.
the area up here. And I was talking to him, and he says, "Oh, yeah, that was just a great time. I love that video shoot." So, how did you get involved with this project? And were those your lyrics for that song?
Well, we wrote those together, Joe, Steve, and myself.
Okay.
Um, but I've known Joe and Steve since the early 80s, and we've been talking about doing something like this for decades. And I love those two guys individually, and I love their musicianship is absolutely phenomenal, as we all know. But again, we've been talking about doing something like this, and I got a call from Joe in like late last year about writing at Steve's studio, which we did. We recorded the song at Steve's place, and we went over there and created that song.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. I'll be speaking to Marco Mendoza next week, so I'll have to mention that you and I were chatting. Uh, so on to the new album, Glenn. So this is your first new solo album in 9 years.
Mhm.
The title "Chosen," sort of carries a sense of destiny or divine purpose. Like, is that the reflection of where you are now
Yeah.
artistically and spiritually?
Exactly. I mean, for me, each album is a little bit different to the one before, and this one is even more spiritually progressive than Resonate. I thought Resonate was a great album, by the way, and here
Hmm.
I am making, I guess, a follow up to Resonate,
Sure.
and I created those songs early last year and went in the studio in Copenhagen in June, and what you're hearing is the session.
Yeah, it's I've had the advance copy for about 3 weeks now, and I've played it a lot of times. It's a fantastic body of work. I want to ask you some questions about some of the songs, but were there any, let's say, emotional or life experiences that sort of shaped the writing of the songs? Anything in particular?
Well, everything I write is about us. I generally write how I'm feeling about the human condition, just about everything that happens in life, not just about me. But
Yeah,
I'm telling stories that hopefully people will relate to. So when I'm making my music, I'm writing for what I consider to be me, but I'm hopefully people will understand what I'm saying.
sure
It's
thing, sure thing.
I'm a feeling person rather than technical.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, you could always hear the emotion come out in, especially your singing. There's a lot of passion behind your singing in
Thank
the
you.
different ways that you sing, but also in your bass playing as well.
Thank you.
But maybe talk about the cover art. It's kind of a calming,
Yeah.
feel to it. The sunrise near the coast with the rocks. Like, what's the symbolism behind why you chose that cover?
Well, it's a resting spiritual stillness, which for me, if I can stay still and sometimes be quiet, it speaks to me. Stillness really is something that really speaks to me, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing now. It's like returning home to my spiritual background, and what you see on that cover is where I feel I am.
Okay. Are you a water guy? I know you're a California
I
guy. Do you
am.
live near the water?
Yeah, we live right here on the ocean in LA.
Ah, that's beautiful. There's nothing more soothing than the ocean. My family, I'm blessed
Sure.
to have a family house in the Jersey Shore passed down through a couple of generations. So my wife and kids and I, we spend the weekends there in the summers. There's nothing better than watching the ocean. It's a peaceful
I
place.
agree. It's absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah. So I've noticed that you're using your touring band on this album. So Soren
Yeah,
Anderson and Ash Sheehan. I mean,
correct.
both of those guys, they are beasts. I mean, again, going back to that Palladium show.
Yeah.
But how did you approach the songwriting, let's say, in the instrumentation on this record?
Well, I wrote, up in my studio, and I wrote songs that would transfer. It's basically a vocal album. There's not really a lot of histrionics on guitar and drums, so I wanted it to be really about the vocals and the song, So
Yeah.
it's not really anything more than a vocal album.
Yeah, yeah, I could see that. So there's so much variety in the songs. I mean, there's 10 songs on the album, and I've kind of mentally I've placed them in these different buckets, and I want to ask you about a few of them. But obviously, you have two singles out there so far, Chosen and Voice in My Head. You have videos for these. These songs are just they're very upbeat and rich with great harmonies and melodies. So maybe talk a bit why about these songs and why you chose those to be your singles.
Well, they jumped out at me, and I think, both of those songs are, each song has its own meaning, but those two songs jumped
Mm-hmm.
out at me to be the first songs I released. It's difficult because I recorded the album now over a year ago, so
Yeah.
it's like a little old for me. But
Yeah.
again, I think it's a good representation of what I was doing last year. This year's completely different. So with me, everything changes year by year.
Yeah, I see that. You're right. And for any artist that records material, you're right. You are
Mm.
promoting it and eventually going and performing it live. Yet again, you've been living with it for maybe a year or more.
That's right.
So yeah, that's the evolution of music. So a couple of my favorite tracks that I call these are the heavy, groovy, dark songs on My
Mm.
Alibi and In the Golden.
Right.
Some amazing bass work on these shows, but these ones,
Thank you.
I love it because there's so much variety, but they're big and bright. They got these great choruses, yet they're fast and heavy and a bit frantic at times. So comment on those tracks.
They're dramatic songs, When I write a song, it's like I go, each song is different, as you can see and hear with what I do. And those two songs are groovier, heavier tracks, and I wanted to portray different genres on this album. You can't
Yeah.
really label Glenn Hughes. It's difficult to label what I do, Of course, it's in the rock. When you look under rock, you see Glenn Hughes. But with me, there's obviously R&B and soul and a little bit of jazz in there too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, you see the variety. I mean, you could go into, let's say, a song like "The Lost Parade." Right?
Mm.
Initially, I said, "Oh my God, this is a really heavy, heavy riff," and my
It is.
mind said, "Oh my God, this sounds like maybe something Alice in Chains or Soundgarden would have like almost a riff from them."
Yeah.
But it's just mid-paced, and slower, but
Mm.
just amazing vocal work on that one. It's a heavy, heavy
Thank you.
track.
Again, each song is different.
Yeah,
With me, um, with this album, I wanted to do everything, a little bit of
yeah,
everything, not just like a one directional sounding thing, all drop D like doomy things. That's not
yeah,
who I really am, as you know, but I do play those things sometimes. But I like to keep changing, I always like to
yeah.
I kind of like to take risks, and that's who I am.
Yeah, well, I will say my favorite song on the album is "Hot Damn Thing." I can't get enough of that
Okay,
song,
thank
and
you.
I know how that one kind of ties and complements Black Cat and Moan, right? Because they both have
Yeah,
they're funky, but that "Hot Damn Thing," man, I don't know, Glenn. It makes me. I'm 55 years old, but I imagine like this is like a spunky, sexy 70s
thank you.
rocker, like something
It
you would have
is.
written with Tommy Bolin or your trapeze mates.
Yeah,
It's a very awesome
it's
track.
like 1974, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love that track. So I hope that one gets into the set list. But maybe my other favorite is "Come and Go" because it's
Mm,
shows that different side of you. It's soulful, it's subdued, yet it's bright and melodic. It's a really nice. It's a
thank
beautiful
you.
track.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the only really slow song on the album. I wanted to only have one slow song on this album, and that
yeah.
song is about people coming and going and leaving and staying. Some people stay for 1 year, some people stay for 1 day and they go and they come back, and it's just the circle of life.
Yeah, right. It's I mean, obviously we talk about it sometimes about, birth and death, but it's also people coming and going in your lives, right? They may still very well be alive, but we all have those experiences, right? In our family and friends, you look back in time and you say, well, you know what? That person was an important part of my life then, and they
That's
always
right.
will be, but they're just not in the present, right?
I'm sure someone out there will relate to that song because it's specifically about love lost and finding new love and regaining oneself and becoming grounded.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Glenn, now getting into touring, I speak to a lot of artists on the show, and it's a lot of American bands too, but it's like there's just something here that it seems like artists like you have such a bigger reach outside of the US.
Mm.
So as a solo artist, like why do you think this is, and like how do you go out and decide where you're going to play around the world? Like you're going to go out and tour for this. Where do you start?
Yeah, well, for me, obviously, I'm British, but I've been living in
Yeah.
America most of my life. But I have when I got sober, I had a couple of hit songs over there that weren't released in America. And I think I have a fan base, a larger fan base in Europe. I'm changing that now. I'm doing more shows in America. So I always pretty much start in Europe. I love Europe, but I love America. I love playing here.
So I see that you are starting your tour over in Europe in only a couple weeks
Yeah.
in September, hitting the UK. What are plans? And how do you go about putting a show together? Like I was thinking to ask you this crazy question, but is there ever a Glenn Hughes show where you say, you know what, I'm not going to do any Deep Purple. I can't.
Mm.
I have so many other things I have to pick from.
I think with this tour, there probably won't be much Purple at all because I have so much work for my solo career.
Yeah.
And, I want to revisit trapeze, so that's really important. That first band for me was the moment I came Glenn.
Yeah.
You can hear the youthfulness in my voice back then, and I want to go back there again. I don't like going back too much to do anything anymore. I'd rather go forward and play what's coming out with new music. But this tour for me means a little Deep Purple, only very, very little, maybe one song, maybe no more than one or two. But I
Yeah.
want to revisit a lot more music.
Yeah, so that's good to hear. Now, will you pencil in some U.S. dates maybe at some point? Is that
We are,
possible?
yeah, we are planning to do a tour next year for sure.
Oh, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. Well, Metal Mayhem ROC will be out there supporting you guys. So,
Absolutely.
Glenn, we wish you the best of luck with the album and the tour. Want to Eddie ask a couple things about some of your back history. So, me personally, I'm a big Black Sabbath fan,
Mm.
and I'd like to just comment a little bit about the Seven Star,
Mm.
but it's slightly different twist to this. I know there was always so much negativity placed toward this in terms of, okay, it wasn't supposed to be a solo album. Then, of course, there was the ill-fated U.S. tour dates and that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, when you put the CD on, it's this amazing body of work. So from your perspective, give me a positive that you took out of that whole experience.
Well, Tony and I put the album together first in Los Angeles, then we moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and Tony and I were very, very close, and we still are. In that period, we were writing those songs together. And again, when we were writing that album, we thought it was going to be a Tony solo album. So all those songs were meant to be for his solo album. And of course, on the very last song, the manager, Don Arden, Sharon's father, said that Warner Brothers wanted to call it, featuring Tony Iommi, Black Sabbath. So he was very upset about it. And I mean, I love, love Ronnie and Ozzy. They're very good friends to me.
Right.
I'm not a Black Sabbath singer, as you know, and I'm not, but I thought I was doing a Tony solo album. I'm very happy with the way the album turned out.
Yeah, it's still one of those. I'm a big fan of that period of the band where
Thank you.
you had Tony Martins and Glenn and even Ian Gillan in there. So that one stands the test of time. But I don't know. This probably has occurred to you, but it's the 20th anniversary of the Fused album, which seems hard to believe that album came out 20 years ago. And I think that's a highly underrated album. Songs like Dopamine, Grace, and just the other day I played the last track on the album, I Go Insane, which clocks in at 9 minutes, and it blew me away, Glenn, as if it was like the first time I ever heard it. So what do you recall from that experience?
Let me give you, just in case anybody out there needs to know why the album wasn't really promoted, Tony and I had done the album. Then Tony and I went on a press tour of Europe. And during that press tour, Tony got a call from Sharon saying, hey, we want to do the first Ozfest in 3 months. And we need you, Tony, need to be involved. So Tony and I and Kenny Aronoff were booking a tour, global tour, to promote Fused. And that all came to a head when Sharon called Tony to say we're going to do the first Ozfest. So that was the reason why Fuse really wasn't promoted. And I think it's one of the greatest rock albums of that decade.
Oh, it's fantastic. Any of the listeners should pick that album up again. I'm curious, have you ever performed anything from that album live?
No, but I think I will do soon.
All right. That sounds great. All right. I mean, I'd vote for the last song on the album, but that's going to chew up 10 minutes. So maybe you can't do that one. But hey, you never know for the U.S. audiences. So, Glenn, I also, when Ronnie James Dio passed, I was really, really heartbroken by that one. And I actually flew over to London when you did that tribute show with Heaven and Hell. I was in attendance for that one. I went all the way over there because I had to be there. But that had to be an emotional show for you to play, but being in the audience, it was amazing to hear you sing his body of work. Can you take us back to that day and what that meant to you?
Well, number one, Ronnie was one of my oldest friends. He lived with my neighbor in LA. He moved to LA to get close to me, and in like 1979, we were inseparable till the very, very end. And it was more than my honor to do that show for Ronnie. I would have done anything for him, and he would have done the same for me. So the reason I did that show was to honor and respect my dear friend. Before the music, I had Ronnie's friendship, and his friendship meant everything to me. And we all know how graceful and grace Ronnie treated music and his fans. So for me to be included with Tony, Geezer, and Vinny, and myself was an amazing moment. I'll never forget it.
Yeah, well, I was happy to be in attendance for that one. That was a big memory for me. So, and I've even seen that you've been doing a little bit of work with Tony in 2025. You guys worked on the Robbie Williams song Rocket, but also, Tony mentioned in a recent interview that he does have a body of work ready to be released at some point. And he mentioned that there's going to be one singer on it. So, of course, all the online trolls are saying it's either Glenn Hughes or Tony Martin. Now, I'm not putting you on the spot, but it would be cool to hear you again and Tony working.
I don't know. Tony and I mentioned a couple of years ago doing something together, and we still may, but on this particular project, I'm not included, or I haven't been writing with him. I imagine at some point I will, but not at this particular moment.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. So, Glenn, I want to just go back to a couple more memories I have of you in the 2000s. This is the time where you were trying to build up your fan base a little bit more in the U.S.
Yeah.
And I recall you did a special show at the John Varvatos Boutique, which was CBGB's. I was there, and it was like so cool because it was just the band set up in the living room. I even talked to Jeff Coleman about it when he was on our show not long ago. But I think if I have my memory right, you were talking about that may have been the anniversary of either Tommy Bolin's birthday or his death anniversary. And you know what? I'll never forget getting tighter that night. And there was just something about that performance. So talk about your relationship with Tommy. And I feel like he's a guy that's still with you 40 years later.
I don't have any brothers and sisters. And when Tommy lived with me in LA, we were very, very close friends, a brother to me. And all through my time with Tommy in the band and off stage, we were very, very close. And when he passed, it really was, for all of us, it was awful. And for me, I've been living, Tommy lives within me, he genuinely lives within me. I'll never forget him. We've lost a lot of people lately. Another one yesterday, Teddy Reed. So with Tommy, he was a very special young man. Very, very special young man.
Yeah, it was I know most fans will say, well, Burn and Stormbringer are the albums they go to, the Glenn Hughes, David Coverdale era. I have a special place for Come Taste the Band. There's just something about that album. The funk is different and it's refreshing. And I think that's the best of the three. Now, Glenn, you had a short-lived band called California Breed. And at the time, it had this 18-year-old kid named Andrew Watt who'd come on to become a huge superstar music producer. He produced Post Malone and Ozzy. That was a cool album and a good tour. But did you see something in him back then that you could imagine his fame was coming?
I did. Julian Lennon introduced me to him at one of Julian's photography parties at the Sunset Marquee, and Andrew played me something on an iPhone, and I went, oh my God, the kid was so talented, is so talented. So I invited him over to my house, and he came to stay for a couple of days, and we started to noodle around playing some, and we started coming up with some really cool songs, which later would become California Breed. So I got Jason involved, as you know, and we went to Nashville to make an album with Dave Cobb. Yeah. And I thought the album was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, that was a good one. I was at the show in New York City at the Blender Theater, it was called. So I followed your career. So Glenn, before I let you go, just a couple maybe thoughts on these recent passings. How did the Ozzy impact you? His passing? Were you friends with him? Did you have a working relationship with him at any point?
Well, yeah. I mean, I've known Ozzy and Geezer and Tony and Bill since 1970 when they took off that year with Paranoid, and I was very friendly with them back then. So I've known those guys for 55 years. So when we lose someone, we as the general public lose someone, we lose icons and famous people. But I've lost family members, you know. Ozzy was one of my closest friends, especially in the 70s when we lived 8 miles from one another. He spent a lot of time at my house. I spent a lot of time at his house. He wanted me to be in a band with him in 1979 when he left Sabbath. And at that time, I didn't want to go back to playing bass guitar and singing second vocals, with respect, because I love Ozzy very much. I just wanted to be the Glenn Hughes we all know now, lead singing bass player. So I had to decline that. But all through these years, Ozzy's been very, very close to me. Ozzy was one of the most genuine guys you'll ever meet. Genuine, loving, kind human beings.
Yeah, we could see that. And, we all have his legacy and all of the past greats' legacy. Yeah. I just saw something come over the news front a few minutes ago that John Lord's wife passed away last night.
What?
Yeah. So, you'll see that coming through the wire as well.
What was her name?
I can't remember her name. It was on my Facebook, but it popped up that John Lord's wife passed away.
Is it Nikki? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm a bit stressed. She was a friend of mine.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't write it down, but you'll be seeing that coming.
Here we go. You see, here you go. You're telling me something. We're talking about passings, and there's another one. You know. God, that's really sad.
Yeah, it is sad. It is sad.
I'm really quite shook up on that one.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry for that loss and everything. But Glenn, I wish you the best with this Chosen album and the tour. And I hope those tour dates come through in the States. And I would love to say hi to you again after all these years.
And listen, you've been an amazing interview today. You're a very smiling person. I want to say thank you to you and all my friends across America, especially in the Northeast. You know I love you. One of my favorite places in the whole world. And I look forward to seeing you again sometime soon.
Sounds great, Glenn. So for more information on Glenn Hughes, head over to glennhughes.com for all of his news, tour dates, and links to his socials. So, Glenn, we appreciate it. So for my guest today, Glenn Hughes, I'm Metal Walt, and this is Metal Mayhem ROC.
Thanks. Peace and love. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Glenn. Yeah, cheers. Thank you, too. Bye.
Metal for Life.
Thank you for listening to Metal Mayhem ROC. Check out our website at metalmayhemroc.com for information on podcasts, archives, links to all our live radio shows, and all sorts of info. Please like, follow, and share with everyone, even your non-metal friends. And always remember to keep it heavy.